in this video we are going to learn about pattern layout, which we've talked about in class before, but we're going to put that into practice by laying out our hoodie pattern. Okay, so for laying out the fabric, I am going to just take my kit. If you brought your own fabric and you don't have all this kit stuff, but I'm going to keep everything together in my kit so I don't lose it. And I'll put that in my bin. I don't have a bin, but you'll put it in your bin. And then I'll take my fabric and I will lay it out. Right now, everything is folded together, but you can kind of see that my selvages don't line up perfectly. So I'm going to fix that first thing. Just line up my selvages together. And I'm just making sure they line right on top of each other. And then I'll do the selvage side first. And then once I have all the selvages lined up, I am going to just make sure this fold, adjust this fold so that everything lays flat. Okay, so now I'm ready to do the first part of my layout. Like I said, the suggested layout tells us to do one where there's two folds. So when I do that, I'm going to unfold it and I'll fold the two selvages towards the center. So I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to cut the first part first and then I will do that with my remaining fabric. So I'm just going to do, I'm working on the size small right now. You can do your own size though, so make sure you're following the lines for your size as we cut things out. But I'm going to follow this first part right here where it has just the sleeve and the hood and the pocket. So I will find my hood pattern right here, and I will find my hood pattern, or that was my hood pattern. I'll find my sleeve pattern and my pocket pattern. So this is pieces 3, 8, and 7. And if your pieces are really wrinkly, you can actually iron them so they like lay nice and flat and neat. Okay, so I have those 3 pieces and I'm going to look back at my pattern layout. You'll want to refer to this as we're going through, so make sure you have your own pattern layout ready right there so you can look at it as you go through. And I want to be as efficient with my space as possible because I need to use this fabric efficiently so that I don't run out of fabric, right? If I just cut stuff willy-nilly, then I might not have space for everything, like all of my pattern pieces. So I'm just going to start at the end of this piece. So I'll put my piece number 3 right here. And I'm going to put it really close to the edge so that I can have as much space as I need over here. Remember, I'm going to be cutting these out and then I'm going to have to refold it and cut more pieces. So I need all of this fabric over here. So we'll put that for 3. Right now my pattern pieces are cut to the extra large size. So when you cut them out, you can just cut them loosely. You don't even have to cut them right on the exact size because tissue paper is special paper that you can use fabric scissors on. And so it's actually more accurate if you cut it on the line when you're cutting the fabric the first time. So if this makes sense, I have this, I just cut out loosely around where I'm going to be cutting. And then when I cut my size small, I'm just going to cut on the small line. So that will be the first time I cut on that line so I can get the most accurate cut right when I'm cutting the fabric. So I'm going to do that. And then following my pattern layout, it tells me to put, so I'm going to adjust this and it's going to go off the edge, but my small is right here. You probably can't see. This is my small line. So I'm okay to put the like medium and large and extra large off the side. If you are making a medium, large, or extra large, then obviously you wouldn't want to put those off the side. But right now my small is still 1 inch in, so it's not even on the selvage, so I should be okay there. Then I'm going to take my hood, my hood is the next one. And my hood will go right here, according to my pattern layout. You'll see that, again, these kind of overlap, but my small line is right here. And then my small line again is right here. So they actually won't overlap when I cut them out. So I'll put that right there and I need to move it in just a little bit so it's not on the fold. Make sure still that my smalls are not going to overlap, so I should be okay there. And right now I'm just loosely laying them out. I'm going to measure to make sure that everything is parallel to the selvage after this, but just going to loosely do it so I can make sure that this is kind of the right area for everything. This pocket is going to be cut on the fold. So I'm going to put it right here, and I'm just going to put it right on the fold. It doesn't have the little fold arrow, but it says center front place on fold. So normally they have the little like arrow that has like a bracket. This one doesn't have that. It has a green line, and then it also tells you to place it on the fold. So we're going to make sure to place that on the fold. You do not want to cut this side of your pocket. Okay? So we'll place that like that. And then I'm ready to measure. So I have everything laid out, and I haven't pinned it down yet because I want to make sure that everything is straight as far as the grain line goes before I pin it and make it permanent, right? I mean, it's not permanent really till I cut it, so you still can adjust after you pin. But I was just going to leave it loose until I have everything measured. So in order to make sure that things are straight with the grain line, and I don't know how well you can see the grain line in the video, but my grain line right here on this pattern piece number 3, the sleeve, is just right here. And I am going to measure the distance from this line to either the selvage or the fold, because the selvage and fold should be parallel to each other. So if it's straight with either of those, it should be straight with the other one. I'm going to do the selvage because that's a little bit closer to it. So I will take my measuring tape, and I'm just going to go from the selvage down to where it matches up. And you can kind of adjust it so that it matches up somewhere that's easy to remember if you need. So I'm going to make that so that's 7 inches. So from here, the selvage, to the grain line, it is 7 inches. So I want to make sure that it's 7 inches over here. And I can already tell that this is going to be a little crooked, and I'm going to need to adjust. So for right now, I'm just going to put a pin going straight down so that I can adjust over here and not move this side. So I'm going to lay that over here, and I can see that that's about 6.5 inches. So I'm going to need to adjust. So I'm going to move that a little bit, and then I'll measure again. And we'll see. That is close. So there we go. That's about 7 inches, and I'll double check again that this side didn't move. Still 7 inches. And we're going to just adjust this a little more. Okay, 7 inches. So then I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in on both sides to make sure that that is parallel. And again, I'm just going to measure to make sure that's the same measurement. So I'm doing 7 inches. Yours doesn't have to be 7 inches. It just has to be the same measurement on this side of the grain line as it is on the other side of the grain line, because that way you know that it's parallel to the selvage. So now that I've pinned that, I'm going to make sure that nothing is overlapping still. So the small is still going to be on my pattern, or on my fabric, as you can see. So this is where the small would end, so I'll still be on the fabric. If you're doing like a medium, large, or extra large, you'd want to move it in a little bit so that you get your whole sleeve cut out. And then I'm going to straighten out the rest of my pattern piece and see if that's going to interfere with anything. My small is right here, so that's still not interfering. Well, it might interfere with this. We'll have to see when I measure this one out. So I'm just going to leave those 2 pins. I'm not going to pin the rest of it until I have everything pinned out, because if I do and I like pin this whole thing and then I find out I actually need to move it up a little bit in order for my hood to fit on, then it would be kind of a pain to unpin everything. So I'm going to leave that for a minute and we'll come back to it. And I'm going to move over to my hood. So for the hood, I will measure it to the fold because the fold's closer, so that's a little bit easier for me. And I'll just put it kind of close to the fold, but not on it, because I am going to cut this. This is where my face is going to go. And I'm going to pull it down as much as I can to avoid overlapping right here. So once I have that, I'm going to measure, and that's 3 3/4 inch for me. It'll be different for you, but just keep track of what it is. I'm going to pin that one spot, and then I will measure over on this side and make sure it's 3 3/4 inch, and I'll pin that. I keep dropping that. Okay, I'm going to measure one more time, 3 3/4, 3 3/4. So that is straight. And remember, we want everything to be straight with the grain line so that it hangs properly. Now that I've done that, I'm just going to gently lay this out and make sure that where my small is, which is right here, I pull that up, it still won't overlap with my small on my sleeve. so I'm good to go there. This last one, you don't need to measure anything because it's going to go on the fold. So this is piece number 8. It is our pocket. And you only cut one. It also says that on the piece, so it says cut 1, and these other ones each say cut 2. So you're going to cut them individually, and then this one's going to be cut on the fold. And I'm just going to lay that out. So I'm going to come as close as I can to the sleeve without overlapping with the sleeve. Since I'm doing the small, I could actually come all the way down here and it wouldn't overlap. So I could save all of that fabric. I'm going to do it up here because if you're doing like a medium or large, you would need to do that. So this will just kind of be what you would do. But if you're doing a small and you can save more space, go for it. So I'm going to just pin it along, I'm just lining it up with the fold right here, and I'm just pinning it along the fold. Just right on the fold. You don't want any space, so if there's like a 1/4 inch there, then you're actually adding a 1/4 inch, and then when you unfold it, another 1/4 inch, so that's a 1/2 inch to your pocket. So you want to be right on the edge, okay? I can lift that up and you can kind of see that maybe. But you want to be right on the edge. You don't want to have any space there. So the edge, or the pattern piece should line up with the edge there. And then now I can just pin the rest of these down. So I'll go ahead and pin those down. Just a reminder, you want to pin inside your fold or your cut line. So since I'm doing the small, I'd actually want to pin a little bit further in on this. You're going to pin along the inside of the pattern piece. And especially on curves, you want to do a couple extra pins because as you cut, it might just kind of move a little bit. So you want to keep everything in place. So just do a couple like pins every few inches. And I'm going to check again as I pin right here to make sure that there's nothing overlapping. So my small line is right here and my other small line is right here. So they won't overlap. If they do overlap, you're going to need to adjust. Otherwise, you're not going to have a full hood or a full sleeve. Alright, so I've gone through and I've pinned everything. I made sure to pin in each of the corners just because when I cut there, that's when I'm going to have my pattern piece move the most. And also on curves, I did some extra pins, but especially in corners and curves. And then straight lines, you could usually do like every 3 inches is probably good. So I'm ready to cut these out. Before you cut them out, you're going to need to get them checked off by me, so come get me and or put your name tag up and I'll come check you off.